Oh, but what were the Republicans did? January 6th, it was too much. No. For so long, I've wanted to debate Cenk Uygur or Mehdi Hassan on things related to January 6th because I have a litany of comments saved from them that they made mocking Trump for having to be sent to a bunker when a bunch of violent left-wingers stormed the White House on May 30th, 2020. A threat that Secret Service took so credibly that they moved our president at the time, Donald Trump, to a bunker, to which many members of the media and our former president, Joe Biden, made fun of Trump for having to be moved to a bunker. So when I watched Mehdi Hassan and Cenk Uygur go on and gnash their teeth about January 6th, such a solemn moment, blah, 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 they don't give a fuck about political violence at all. When it was directed at Trump, they celebrated. They made fun of Trump. Now they're out there, oh, and how many times did I say this is what would happen if you watched me back in 2020? Over and over and over again, I'm on panels with these lefties like, it's out of control. Black Lives Matter, they're rioting. We're being locked down. Black Lives Matter is being allowed to fucking riot on the streets in cities all across this country. And Democrats are just like, well, they don't give a shit. And what I was told to all these lefties back then, I said, just like, I remember seeing this interview with Richard Spencer in like 2016. And he was asked like, why is support for you growing so much? Well, what do you attribute to? And he was like, Black Lives Matter. The more that it is mainstreamed that black people play racial identity politics, eventually the other side sees that and says, oh, we'll play that game as well. Same with political violence. If you show over and over again that political violence will be downplayed and treated with kid gloves when it comes from the left, inevitably, people on the right would say, we're going to play that game too. Which I warned the people on the right. I said, but you don't have the institutional power. So as soon as you play that game once, the Democrats are going to lose their fucking mind and they're going to throw you in prison like forever. That's what's going to happen. And that's what happened. Now I have to watch people that not only sat there and watched those lefties engage in violence, but then made fun of Trump for having to be moved to a bunker, that are now going to crocodile tears. Oh, but what were the Republicans did? January 6th, it was too much. No. Meanwhile, Joe Biden, 2 weeks after, May 30th, 2020, are telling Trump to go back to his bunker. Imagine if Trump said that to AOC or someone. They would have said, oh, that's more evidence that he engaged in an insurrection. Hell, Trump says fight like hell, but go be peaceful. And they're like, oh, that means literal physical violence. But Joe Biden mocking Trump for being in a bunker when violent lefties attacked the White House. By the way, to my knowledge, over 100 Secret Service agents and law enforcement were hurt on May 30th. To my knowledge, I believe I read one arrest. One? Now, I'm open that there was more than that, but it was appallingly low. No huge internal investigations. No looking at Democratic politicians to see if they spurred it on incited it by telling people to fight. This is the Democrat game. Turn a blind eye to corruption, violence, bad economy, bad border, kids in cages, whatever, when they're doing it. And then as soon as the other side does, go, oh my God, no! And they have institutional credibility behind it. When the January 6th committee comes out and says, oh my God, it's the worst thing ever, they're like, see? That's the same with the E. John Carroll case. When I've been covering this Destiny stuff, what's the number one comment from a Destiny community member? You voted for Trump. He's liable for sexual assault. Ha ha! So therefore, we can do whatever we want. Right. They changed the law so that a very biased person worked with Democrats like Reid Hoffman to try to take down Trump. Allegations that she didn't bring up with 20 years, didn't have contemporaneous evidence, didn't have the specific details, claimed she was wearing a dress that wasn't even created yet, but because he's been found guilty, oh, okay, civilly liable, I guess. That's what they do. That's their appeals to authority. Now, it's not that the left cares, well, violence against the regime is bad, but violence against the people is good. They don't give a shit. May 30th was violence against the regime. They attacked the White House. They set a guard station on fire. They were banging at the gates outside the White House. It's not like they're like, oh, well, that was regime violence, so they're against that. They don't give a shit. Their downplaying of the violence actually shows that they like it. Like, let me give you another example. You remember when South Park tried to put an image of Muhammad up and they weren't allowed? Why was that? Do you think that's because the people at Comedy Central are Islamic? Do you think it's because they're like, we don't allow any criticism of any religions? Why because I've seen them make fun of Christianity, I've seen them make fun of Judaism. But what was it about showing Muhammad? Does anyone know? Anyone have any clue? Why was it specifically? Why would American newspapers, American universities, not allow depictions of Muhammad? Anyone have a guess? If you were a television network, why might you not want them to put a picture of Muhammad? Or a newspaper, or a university? Why might you come to that conclusion? Because you don't want your head fucking chopped off? Yeah, Charlie Hebdo, that's why. Because they murdered people. Charlie Hebdo, the Danish cartoons, remember that? And so, I'm not saying that I know a few Muslims that were outraged by it and spoke up. But what about the many that didn't? I'm not saying all of them, but a healthy portion of them that downplayed what happened with the attacks and the violence against people that depicted. I'm not saying they're going to go out there and commit violence, but they're happy that you think that someone might. This was, if you go back and you watch the old Sam Harris on Bill Maher's show, where Ben Affleck, before Sam Harris lost his mind, where Ben Affleck's on there, and Sam Harris, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is what he was talking about at the time. He was like, only like a handful of the percentage of Muslims globally say they would commit acts of what we would consider terrorism, violence in religion's name. Now, that's still a big deal when you're talking about a religion with billions of people. But he's like, that's not even the problem. The problem is polling consistently shows the next group, which is like 15 to 20%, will defend those that do take the terroristic actions. That's the real problem. Well, it's the same thing here. The worst kept secret was many people in that community were like, maybe you shouldn't draw Muhammad. The truth is, so many people that downplayed the left-wing violence that we saw all throughout the Trump administration, but particularly in 2020, was that they were happy that it was occurring. They might not want an individual beaten. They might not want an individual store looted. They certainly don't want their communities. But they're happy that people that are similar to them politically and ideologically are putting out there could be dire consequences if you disagree with us. They're happy for that. Well, just like they were happy with the Luigi Mangione thing. They were happy when they were happy on Trump's inauguration when there were riots. Well, that's just the price of business. Trump's terrible. Shouldn't have elected Trump. You elect Trump, maybe violent left-wingers will go do some crazy shit. Everybody knows 2020, election night, the reason that businesses around this country and cities were boarding up their stores wasn't because they're afraid Trump supporters were going to loot and riot. That's the great unnamed strategy. Hey, it'd be a shame if you don't vote for us and then our supporters go out and riot. That'd be a shame. Don't you want a peaceful country? Then you better vote for us so we don't riot. Same shit though with Cenk and Mehdi and all these other people. Made fun of Trump. Didn't just downplay the violence on May 30th, 2020. Made fun of Trump for having been moved by Secret Service into a bunker. And then they're going to go on national television for years and be like, but January 6th is so serious. Again, I remind you, the only reason that January 6th comes across as worse as May 30th, 2020 is because on May 30th, 2020, one of the worst kept secrets is the left is violent. Oh, they're coming to DC, they're going to get violent. So there was adequate security there. But mysteriously, there wasn't on January 6th. Maybe we'll get to the bottom of that. That's the only difference. If 10,000 National Guard troops were stationed outside the Capitol on January 6th, they wouldn't have made it into the Capitol. Wouldn't have mattered. Democrats would have still said, oh my God, someone threw a bottle. That's it, insurrection. That's the difference. Because optically, they wanted that moment of people on the Capitol steps. Or as Nancy Pelosi said, this is the moment we've been waiting for in that video that we've now since seen. So if you see the clip of mine up on YouTube of me talking to a Conaboy the other day, well, Rob, my concern is obviously everything that Trump's suggesting to do will be massively unpopular. And so my concern is the Democrats will win in 2028, but then they'll steal the election. They'll say, no, we're kicking to the vice president and the vice president, the alternate elector scheme, except this time a corrupt Supreme Court will go with it. That's my ultimate concern. Fuck you. Can you show me your concern when there was corruption from the FBI and the Democrats going after Trump? 2016? In the past 4 years? Can you show... you didn't have anything to say about that? Fuck you. I don't give a shit. Your opinion means nothing to me on this. Again, I can't make this any more clear. It would be the equivalent of you cheering for the assassination of Trump and then going, the main concern is Republicans might cheer for the assassination of their opponents. I don't give a fuck what your opinion is on this. They're always demanding you condemn a hypothetical scenario while they cover up the real scenarios that have actually occurred of corruption on their side. They want you to condemn egg prices a week into Trump's presidency while they defended the inflation of groceries for 4 years under Biden. That's what it comes down to. If there's one post from anyone at the White House to any social media that's like, hey, can you remove this one post? They'll flip the fuck out. But they didn't have a problem with NGO cutouts and federal agencies pressuring social media companies over and over to censor things critical of Democrats. Hell, they even kicked off the president of the United States, Donald Trump. So watch them gnash their teeth. I'm not, and here's the thing, right? You didn't see me doing this with Biden. Week 1 into Biden, oh, the grocery prices, blah, blah. You didn't see me doing that shit. Shit I would have been criticizing Biden for, like the first week in his presidency, would have been things like pushing for vaccine mandates, pushing for lockdowns. Shit that I was also criticizing Trump for. In fact, there were parts of Biden, when Biden announced an Afghan withdrawal, I was like, great, good for you. Trump didn't do it, you did it. The way he did it was as amateur as possible, was a fucking disaster. And it's not just random online people either, it's the media. All of a sudden the media is hostile media again when J.D. Vance sits down. Where were they under Biden? Oh, they couldn't find him. They couldn't find Biden. Show me the press conference. Trump's already taken more questions from an adversarial press in 1 week than Biden did in 4 fucking years.